For 200 years, China was not one country. It was a killing field split among 7 rival kingdoms, all hungry. The Zhou dynasty had collapsed beneath its own weight. 7 states rose in its place, each one hungry, each one building armies. This era carried a name, the Warring States period, and that name was not poetry or drama. It was simply accurate. Of the 7, one rose fastest, the state of Qin. Harsh land, harsh people, ruthless system, an appetite for power unlike any other. Qin had adopted the legalist system. Every citizen was ranked by military achievement. Every soldier had one clear and compelling reason to fight. To the east stood Zhao, a proud warrior culture, cavalry specialists, the only state in China that could truly match Qin in field. Zhao had absorbed the tactics of steppe nomads. Their cavalry could outmaneuver anything Qin put forward. Both sides knew this with absolute certainty. Between these 2 powers lay the Shangdang Plateau, high ground, fertile land, the most strategically valuable territory left in China that was still contested. Control Shangdang and you controlled every road connecting the surrounding kingdoms. Every strategist in China understood this with absolute certainty. By 262 BC, Qin had been expanding for decades, absorbing smaller states piece by piece, growing stronger each year, growing harder to stop. That year, Qin crushed the state of Han in a decisive campaign. Han's Shangdang Plateau territory was now sitting exposed and ripe. The Shangdang governor refused to surrender his territory to Qin. Instead, he made a decision that would alter the entire course of Chinese history. He surrendered the Shangdang Plateau not to Qin, but to the rival state of Zhao. 17 cities, handed freely over without any conditions. It was a gift Zhao could not refuse, and a trap they did not see. The road to Changping had just opened. Zhao accepted the plateau willingly, and by accepting it, Zhao had also accepted a war with Qin. That war had already been planned. Qin had wanted this confrontation from the very beginning. They had deliberately provoked Zhao into it. The Shangdang gift was the bait set in advance. At Qin's command was a man named Bai Qi. He had won over 30 consecutive campaigns. He had never lost. His soldiers called him Ren Tu, the human butcher. His enemies gave him a darker title still, inevitable, because that is exactly what he was. On Zhao's side stood General Lian, a true veteran commander. He understood sieges and patience better than any other general alive. Lian's first decision was deliberate and clear. He would not attack Qin's forces directly. He would build walls. He would wait Qin out. The Dan River ran through the valley. Lian used it as his supply line. Zhao could sustain a siege indefinitely. Qin sent its first armies in 262 BC. They hit the Zhao lines, and Lian held, month after month. Every time Qin attacked, Zhao retreated behind the next wall. Lian refused to give Bai Qi an open battle. Bai Qi understood the problem. He could not force a decisive open engagement. The walls made it impossible. So he sat down and planned instead. Qin's supply lines from the west were long and expensive. Back home, the Qin court grew impatient with the stalemate. 1 year passed, then another. Still Lian held. Still Zhao refused to come out and fight in the open. Qin needed a different approach entirely. Not a military one this time, a psychological one. They sent their most capable intelligence agents into Zhao. Qin's plan was genuinely sophisticated. They would not defeat Lian in any battle. They would simply have him removed from his command through deception. Lian is old. They say he is afraid, and Qin fears only Zhao. The trap is set. The road to Changping will decide it. The Zhao king began to believe the whispers. Lian's careful strategy now looked like simple cowardice to a royal court hungry for victory. Back at Changping, Lian had constructed something extraordinary. 3 separate defensive lines crossing the entire valley, 40 kilometers of earthen walls total. He had stationed large reserves behind his third wall. No matter how far Qin broke through the first 2 lines, more Zhao soldiers waited beyond. Lian calculated that Qin's extended supply lines would break before his walls did. Time was his most powerful strategic weapon. Across the valley floor, 400,000 Qin soldiers waited behind their own lines. They too were running critically short on food and supplies. Qin soldiers were surviving on half rations. Forces were dying from neglect and starvation. The longer the stalemate continued, the worse conditions became for everyone. In Qin's capital Xianyang, the king's advisors were in serious crisis. The costs of maintaining this campaign were slowly and steadily bankrupting the state. Meanwhile, inside Zhao, the same financial crisis was taking hold. 2 kingdoms were bleeding themselves dry simultaneously through a standoff neither side could sustain. Lian strategy was working, but it required something his king was dangerously running out of: the patience to let it finish. The whispers about Lian have reached the king's inner circle. He grows weary of the stalemate. The Qin network ensures it. The whispers painted Zhao as brilliant and aggressive, young and decisive, a commander who had memorized every military text ever written on strategy. What nobody told the king was the most crucial fact: Zhao had never commanded a real army in actual combat. Not once, not ever. His own father had warned about him. Zhao has read the books, his father said, but not the battlefield. The warning was ignored. The king had already decided. It was time for a new general. It was time for Zhao. Lian received his dismissal in silence. Without protest or argument, he handed over command and walked quietly out of the camp he built. When Qin's spies reported this news, Bai Qi received the message and said absolutely nothing. He simply allowed himself one quiet, private smile. The trap was closing exactly as designed. The walls Lian built to protect Zhao would now become the cage that trapped his replacement. Zhao arrived at Changping carrying explicit royal orders: attack, drive the Qin forces back from these walls, end this stalemate immediately and decisively. His first act was to dismiss Lian veterans. He replaced the cautious old guard with men who shared his aggression. He had read every scroll on the art of war. He could recite every famous battle from memory. It was not enough. Bai Qi knew Zhao was coming. He had planned for it. He changed his own strategy the moment he heard. Bai Qi would let Zhao attack. He would feign retreat, draw the entire Zhao army out into the open valley. He positioned 25,000 elite soldiers into the surrounding hills, hidden from view, waiting in total silence, tasked entirely with cutting off retreat. Another 5,000 cavalry were positioned to block the Dan River Road, the Zhao supply line, their only lifeline from the world outside. Zhao mobilized his entire force, 450,000 soldiers forming up for what he was certain would be a decisive engagement. The Zhao formations advanced through the forward Qin defensive lines, and the Qin center retreated before them, exactly as Bai Qi had secretly ordered. Zhao saw victory taking shape. He pushed forward faster. He pulled his entire army deeper into territory that Qin now controlled completely around them. He did not notice the hills. He did not see that Qin's flanks had not retreated. Only the center had moved. Bai Qi watched from his elevated command position above the valley. He waited with patience until the entire Zhao force had fully committed itself below. Then he gave the signal. Both hills erupted simultaneously. The hidden Qin army swept down and closed the ring behind the entire Zhao rear. Zhao realized what had happened to him.
He ordered an immediate breakout assault through the Qing perimeter. It failed completely. The ring held firm.
Then the Qin cavalry severed the Dan River road without warning. Food stopped reaching the encircled army entirely. The countdown had officially begun. 450,000 men were now completely surrounded, with only whatever food and water they had personally carried with them into the valley. In the Zhao capital, the king sent desperate messages to every allied state. The messages were simple: help us, send food, send armies, come now. No allied state came. Qin had already sent its own diplomats to every kingdom in advance, with one clear and unmistakable message: stay out. Inside the Changping encirclement, 46 days passed. Each dawn brought less food than the day before. Each sunset brought the men deeper into desperation. On day 14, the remaining horses were slaughtered for their meat. By day 25, there were no horses left anywhere in the encirclement at all. Accounts preserved in Sima Qian's records of the Grand Historian state that the starving soldiers had begun to consume the bodies of their dead.
Zhao Kuo launched 5 separate breakout attempts over those 46 days. Each time, Bai Qi's line absorbed the assault. Each time, more Zhao soldiers died.
Bai Qi reinforced his perimeter continuously throughout the siege. He personally rode to redirect troops to wherever Zhao was pressing the encirclement hardest. Inside the Zhao encirclement, the organized command structure collapsed entirely. Officers lost the ability to maintain unit discipline. The breakdown spread across all formations. Brothers, this is our final charge. For our homes and honor, break through or die. He charged directly at the Qin perimeter with everything remaining. His personal guard was cut down fighting around him. Zhao Ku himself was killed.
With their commander dead, what remained of the Zhao armies surrendered where they stood. 450,000 men laying down their weapons.
Bai Qi faced a crisis. He had captured more men than he had soldiers to guard them. What would he do? He decided every prisoner would be executed. He is reported to have said, "Zhao will rise again if I do not." He deceived the prisoners. He told them they would be escorted home. They came willingly. They walked into prepared ground. The ancient sources describe what followed next without diplomatic softening or euphemism. 450,000 Zhao prisoners were buried alive in the earth. Only 240 boys were spared. Too young to be threats, old enough to walk home to Zhao. Their purpose was deliberate terror. Bai Qi wanted every person remaining in Zhao to know exactly what had happened in the valley. Every detail. News of Changping spread through China like fire through dry grass. Every royal court in every surrounding kingdom heard the full account within weeks. Zhao never fully recovered. They would fight on for decades, but they could never again field a force like that. Bai Qi reinforced his perimeter continuously throughout the siege. He personally rode to redirect troops to wherever Zhao was pressing the encirclement hardest. Archaeological excavations near modern Gaoping in Shanxi province still regularly uncover mass graves directly attributable to the Battle of Changping, even today. These digs reveal human bones found in large pits, skulls bearing injuries consistent with Warring States period weapons. The evidence keeps emerging from the earth. After Changping, Bai Qi went directly to the Jin king. March on the Zhao capital Handan now, while Zhao is still completely shattered and defenseless. The Qin king refused. He accepted a peace offer from Zhao, to the fury of every military mind in Shenyang. 3 years later, Qin invaded Zhao again, and this time the Qin king asked Bai Qi to lead the campaign. The Qin king sent a different general to Handan instead. That siege failed decisively, exactly as Bai Qi had specifically warned and predicted it would. When news of the failed siege reached the Qin court, the king's fury fell on Bai Qi. He was stripped of his military command entirely. The king then sent a sword to Bai Qi in exile. Bai Qi understood precisely what the sword meant. He took his own life. It was said he died questioning his own actions. He knew what he had done at Changping. So did history. But the strategic result of Changping was completely irreversible. Zhao was now finished as a major military power and would never genuinely recover from it. Within 40 years of Changping, Qin had conquered every remaining rival kingdom. All of China came under a single ruler for the very first time. In 221 BC, Qin Shi Huangdi declared himself the first emperor of all China. It was the first time that title had ever existed anywhere. Changping had made that moment possible. Without the battle in that valley, Qin could not have unified China. The connection is completely direct. Modern historians estimate the total death toll at Changping at between 400,000 and 600,000 soldiers across both sides of the conflict. By any measure, it was the largest land battle of the entire ancient world. Nothing before or after came anywhere close to matching its scale. One general, one valley, 46 days, one decision that made modern China inevitable. That is the full truth of the Battle of Changping.